Coffee tech break. Coffee tech break. Yeah, that's what I need. That's what I need. Coffee tech break.
Good to see you back on my channel again. I think I got another great video for you lined up, and that is because today I want to take you through. Alright, the first brand new feature, or I could better say a product, is the support of the A2 table mics. And as you can see, this is specifically the one for the second gen video bars. And so that is, I think, really important. Now, where does the A2 table mics consist of? I think this is a really important one. So the first thing which we will introduce is the A2 bridge. And this is a really important one. This is the brains of the A2 table mics. And you connect these brains up to the video bar. And I will show you how that all looks like. But this is important. These are the brains. There's nothing you need to do to configure this box. It's all auto-configured, auto-tuning, etc. It's just a matter of connecting everything up. You connect up your power, and I'll show you in a bit the power that you need, and you're ready to go. It's really a plug-and-play product. Then we're introducing the A2 table mics. So the A2 table mics are in white or in black. I think this is a really nice one, and they got the AI technology built into the mics to filter out any extra noise. So you will have a really great experience by adding those mics. You know, in most cases it's not needed because most rooms are just generic and should work with out of the box an X32, X52 or X72. But I know we got some rooms with a lot of glass, high ceilings, etc. Or maybe you want to do some additional things with Teams Facilitator or with Copilot, etc. So then I can imagine that you want to have some additional microphone power in the room. It's not only the microphone, what you also see, there is a mute button at the top. So there's an LED light in here which shows green or red if you're muted, and that is also gives you an indication in the room what the status is. So I will show you in this short piece about the A2 table mics, how they integrate with the X series, with the V series, how you mount those products, etc. The A2 bridge, you can use that like the back of the screen, so behind the monitor combined with all the AV equipment, or you can use the A2 bridge under the table. There's different mounting options there, so it's also a very flexible solution for integrators to be able to use it. As you can see, with the noise block feature turned off, you got approximately 1.8 meter range, but if you turn it on, you got 4.3 meter of range. So the first impression of the A2 table mics with some of my customers are really good. It gives you really extensive range in those meeting rooms. Now, what are like in those products when you receive them? What is in those boxes? Now, first off, and this is a separate, this is not inside the box, so just good to know. You need to order this separately, and I will make sure that these SKUs are also in the description. So you need to have, if you're gonna use it with the X or the V series, you need to have this HP dongle. This dongle will create an extra LAN on your network, and to make sure you have the LAN free on the video bar, specifically for the use case to add additional mics. But don't worry, I will walk that all through. Okay, with the A2 bridge, so it's fully self-automated configuring for the room, and so there's nothing you need to do there, but you need to look at the power. So this device for the A2 table mics, there's like a slider on there which is A, B, C, D. So sufficiently for the A2 table mics are a PoE plus adapter, like 30 watt. That is sufficient to use the table mics in the room. And the table mics are around 2 watts, and so you could have loads of them in the room with that 30 watts. So that is perfectly. It's ready for the future, so maybe in the future other products will be able to work with the A2 bridge We don't know yet, but it's future ready, so you can even have more power with the A, B, C, D, but that is not needed for now. So class 4 PoE Plus, there's an adapter available also from the PoE side, so I'm going to make sure that that SKU is also, if you need that, in the list in the description. Okay, on the front side, on the back side here of the A2 bridge, you will see here the network connectivity. So that is the PoE Plus, where you connect the power. Here you got 4 ports where you can connect the A2 table mics. So you can daisy chain them through one port, or you can connect them to the different ports. So there's multiple possibilities. And we call them the A2 bus ports. You connect Phoenix, like Phoenix connectors, to those ports. They're very easy for integrators to use. Create them longer, create them shorter. You can use them through, if there's already some pipes built into the room, you can use that inside those pipes to make sure that the cables are away. So there's a very easy ones to use with room integration. There's a Kensington lock on there if you want to secure it for the room. So that is, I think, a really good one. Just to take you high level a bit of to the different connectors. Now what comes in along with the A2 bridge, you have a LAN cable, 3.6 meters long. There's a LAN cable in there. And again, you need it first to connect it through the PoE, to the PoE Plus for the power. And there's an 8-meter cable. So in case you put the A2 bridge behind the screen, you got 8-meter cable to put it to the table. So you got really long cable, and then you can even extend it more if needed. So that is, I think, a really nice one. Now looking at the A2 table mic. So again, you have them in the black edition or the white edition. Underneath, you can open it up. So by default, this is all closed. If you open it up, you will see the different ports. So you got here an audio in, if you want to daisy chain it, and an audio out. And these are nicely color coded with red and blue. So you can daisy chain them on top of the table. It's a very thin cable, so it's very easy to use. Or you can go under the table. And I will talk about that a bit later also, how that looks like. So what cables are coming along? So you got a 6-meter cable from that small connector, which we call the GST, to Phoenix. There's a 1.8-meter cable from GST to GST. That is to daisy chain the different devices. So 1.8 meters. So that means you're gonna put it on top of the table. There's also a 2-meter cable from the GST to Phoenix. So that is to daisy chain more under the table. So you got different scenarios there, so you don't have to worry about cables and ordering additional cables. Now the base package is already very flexible with the bridge, like the A2 bridge, that you have it behind the screen, or you do it under the table. You can have it, the microphones connected over the table or under the table, so the package is really flexible. Just as an introduction, I will do also an unbox video specifically, so I will extensively take you through what is inside. And of course, I always recommend to get maybe a demo package so you can try it out yourself. Yeah, I think it's always good to have a baseline, and so at least you know what is available when you can start using the A2 bridge and the A2 table mics. So what about when you're gonna use this into a room? This is always where young coffee tech kicks in to show you exactly how this all comes together. So what I told you, you can connect them over the table with the cable. You put the bridge under the table, that is a possibility. You connect them to a single port here, so you can use all the ports if you want, or just a single port, the set and daisy chain them. Now we grab here the X52, we grab the adapter. This is the adapter I talk about. It's not the adapter which comes along in the box, so you need to order that separately. So there's a PoE SKU, an HP SKU for that, which I will make sure I'll put that in the description. You connect that to the USB-A port. This will create a new internet like LAN. That is important because we're gonna use the built-in LAN to connect to the A2 bridge. Of course, you put the injector in there, the PoE Plus injector, that is important. And good to know in all the documentation, we're talking about Studio Net / LLN network. So that is important. If you see some of those terms into the documentation, you know it's talking about this separate network. It's not an internet network, no, it's just a plain network. There's no DHCP, there's nothing in there. It just communicates all over LAN with each other. So it's just an internal accessoire LAN, if I usually call it. So you can connect that here up to that built-in port. If you connect your adapter, make sure you reboot the X series, because during the reboot it will recognize that the adapter is connected there, and it will change the built-in LAN, it will change it to the adapter. And so just good to remember that. Now, looking at an X72, how is that connected? So first we bring in the A2 table mics, we daisy chain them, we put here the bridge again under the table. If we look at the X72, what you will see that it will have 2 ports, so you don't need the adapter. You got the LAN connector and you have the LLN connector there already. This is by default on board, not only on the X72 but the V72 also has this port on board. So we have there internet, and the other port we use that for the Studio Net LLN network. And again, there's no power coming from this LLN network, so you need to put the injector in between. PoE Plus injector, make sure you use that, and then you're able to power up the A2 bridge. The set, nothing to configure. This should be all plug and play. You connect it all with each other, and the Studio X will take care, for example, of any software updates for the bridge or for the mics. That is all done using Studio X, but there's no separate management on the A2 bridge or on the mics running. In case you need additional speaker power, you can also use the 3.5mm output if you want to. I don't know if customers really know that, but that is available explicitly only on the X72. You could connect here an amplifier and add some speakers in the room. So that is important. So just keep that in mind if you need some additional speaker power also in the room, which I think usually not needed, because you can also even turn on speaker boost on the X72. That should give you really some impressive audio in the room. But if needed, know that the option is there. All right, the number of microphones, that is important, because that is different for the X devices. So for example, for the X32, you can connect today up to 2 A2 table mics, and here you see again the white or the black. We got the medium room with the X52 or the V72. There you're able to connect up to 4 like A2 table mics. Then if we look at the large room, also up to 4 A2 table mics. And then we got the integrated room, and I will talk deeper into that because there are more options available. Of course, I'm gonna make sure that you've seen them all. With the G62, you can connect up to 8 table microphones, so you can go really wild using additional microphone power in those meeting rooms. Now watch out with the V series, it's a bit different. So with the V series, especially with the V12, there's no bridge required. You can directly connect to the Phoenix port of the V12. You can directly connect the A2 table mic, again the black and the white. So that is I think a really nice one, but only the V12. With the V52, you need the bridge, you need the adapter, and then you're able to use that up to 4 table mics. Same with the large room. Up to 4 table mics using the bridge, but you don't need the adapter. Again, the adapter is only for the V52, the X52, or with the X32. Then you need that additional adapter. But with the X or the V72, you don't need it. You can connect it directly up to that LLN port. Same with the G62. So you can connect and use the LLN port and use up to 8 microphones. So just good to know. And this is the high level overview, where I will now jump into those specifics so you got an idea how this is all connected. Alright, now let's dive specifically in the different devices and how to combine this with the A2 table mics. And so first off, with the V12, again, you can directly connect that to the Phoenix port of the V12. A really nice one. So no bridge required with the V12. But again, this is only the V12 and there is no daisy chaining of microphones. You can connect only one microphone. But keep in mind that the V12 is specifically for your small room. So you probably don't need any of those extra mics in there, because otherwise you need a bigger bar. So keep that in mind. And then again, with Phoenix port, you can connect cable here. You can even like customize it if you want to put it into the floor, etc. And so I think a really nice one here. The next one is the X32. So the X32, it only has one LAN port. That is first thing. And so that is, I think, really important. So you need to create an additional LAN. And this is what you do with this dongle. And again, I will put in the description the SKU of that dongle. So if you then reboot it, it will bring the LAN functionality from the built-in LAN, it will bring it to this adapter. So you need to reconnect that to that adapter, and then you can use the internal LAN. You can use that to connect your A2 bridge using the PoE like plus adapter, because that is important for the bridge. And then you can connect the A2 table mics up to 2. We can even take it a step further. You can connect a Netgear Pro AV switch, the 4250 for example. Then you connect an additional camera. I don't think needed with an X32, which is also more of the small room. So don't know if you're gonna connect, but you have a possibility, maybe on a specific whiteboard or a specific use case you have, but you can. So you can add that additional Netgear switch and connect one of those additional cameras. If you don't want additional microphones, but you just want to have an additional camera, that is also a possibility. So you can also connect in combination with the HP dongle using the PoE adapter. You can also connect here like one additional E60 or E70 camera if you want. So keep that also in mind. But only one is supported with the X32. The next one, which I want to take you through, is the X and the V52. So with the V52 and with the X52, what you will see, it only has one LAN port. So same thing, you need to connect the dongle through the USB-A ports. You reboot the device, that will switch the built-in LAN, so the internet connectivity, it will bring it to the dongle. So you need to reconnect that cable, and then you've got the internal LAN port available to connect your PoE Plus adapter, connect the A2 bridge, and with the V and the X52 you can connect up to 4 A2 table mics. So I think this is a really good one. I know this is also extensively mentioned in the documentation, but yeah, I just wanted to bring it in the Coffee Tech Jan way, give you sort of good overview of those possibilities. And same here, if you have an X52, not the V52, but with the X52, you can also change the PoE adapter with the Netgear Pro AV switch. For example, the 4250 is one of the smaller ones, but then you can connect up to 2 additional cameras. And these are connected over LAN, so you can put them anywhere, over the ceiling, the floor. The cable can be up to 100 meters. So this is, I think, really powerful when you can connect those cameras over IP. Now for your larger rooms, we got the X and the V72, but these have already the LAN and the LLM port on board of the device. So that makes it a bit easier. You just connect the PoE Plus adapter directly to that LLM port, A2 bridge, and you can connect here again up to 4 of those additional table mics. If you got an X72, you can also use either one of those cameras, so you can connect an E70 or an E60 as an additional cameras, but again only one, because the PoE Plus adapter doesn't have any like splitting, there's nothing there, so it's only like one additional camera in case you don't need additional mics. Now if you want to do it all, so connect and additional microphones, and you want to connect additional cameras, of course, then you bring in the Netgear Pro AV switch, and then you can connect up to 2 are supported with the X72. That is important, and then you can really build out your meeting room with multiple cameras, microphones at the table, etc. So I think also a very nice one to build out your meeting room. So a lot of examples here. So even if you want to add like additional speakers in the room, also possibility. So you can use the 3.5mm out and add additional analog speakers there. So probably most of the times not needed, but if you want to, there's always a possibility. Support for ceiling mics. This works with the X and with the V72, so that is good to know. You want additional ceiling mics, that's also a possibility. So again, you bring in the Pro AV switch, the Netgear, for example, the M4250, and then you can add up to 3, for example, ceiling mics, or for example, a table mic combined with ceiling mics. So you can have a mix of that, all connected to that switch. Really nice. And of course your DC10 will all go up to the internet for connectivity up to Teams and Zoom, etc. Same as for the other LAN port that connects up to the internet. If you then want to connect additional cameras, it's possible, not with the V but with the X series, because it's running those native applications. Then you can add, same here, up to 2 additional IP cameras, so you're really flexible with your meeting rooms. Same here, you can also add additional speaker power if needed, but don't forget that the X70, the V72, and same for the X52 and the V52, they have also speaker boost. I talked about that in one of my earlier videos. It's just that you can tick in the box under the audio settings, the video bar, you can turn on speaker boost, which gives you an additional volume, not over the edge, but it gives you an additional boost of the speakers in the video bar. So keep that also in mind. Now, if you want to go really wild with integrated rooms, multiple cameras, multiple microphones, etc., then you can also throw in the G62. So the G62 has an LAN port on board and has a LAN port, 2 separate ones, and these are not connected with each other. The LAN port is purely built for internal accessoires. Again, no DHCP, nothing there, no internet. It's only managed by the device itself. So again, we connect the PoE Plus adapter there. Here you can connect like a camera, or you can connect the same thing, the A2 bridge, but with the G62 you can have up to 8 microphones. So also a really nice use case. You want to add audio, same thing, speakers, you can add additional speakers or add a speaker bar. So there's a lot of options there to build out the G62 with those different devices. Same thing, you can change the PoE Plus adapter for a Netgear Pro AV switch, and then you can add up to 3 additional cameras with the G62. So that is also a really nice one. So you see, you can add up to 8 microphones in those meeting rooms. Now the last option, if you already have a room with a third-party DSP like Biamp, QSC or Shure with hand microphones, etc., you can also connect that up to the USB-A ports of the G62, and that will disable any of the DSP functionality inside the G62 and will provide it all to the external DSP. That is important. The only thing is you need to do the tick in the box and that you turn on USB audio. From that moment everything is processed externally. That is important, but all the audio. So if you're gonna use, for example, an HDMI ingest here, you gotta make sure that before going with the audio inside G62 that you split the audio up and bring that directly into the DSP, just to avoid any audio issues there. And again, same thing, you can hook up the Netgear switch to the LLM port and connect multiple cameras. So yeah, you got a lot of flexibility here and use cases which you can fill with the Studio X series, the V series and the G62 to bring in AV into those meeting rooms. Now lastly, on the A2 table mics, the configuration. So in the Studio X or V web interface, you're able to identify. So as soon as you hook them up to the X or the V, they should be visible under audio bridge. Under the audio settings, you should be able to see and identify all the microphones. Now there you have some configuration settings, so you can check out if the microphones are working properly. So you can identify them by clicking on the light button, then the light will flash on the A2 table mics. That is also handy if you want to know which microphone is connected where. But also you can turn the microphone off. So if you want to test some of the additional microphones if they're working properly, you can turn the microphones here also on and off. And just good to know, if you turn them off, the mute button is still functional. So that is good to know. So only if you want to just have a mute button, that is also a possibility. This is all concerning the A2 table mics. Again, I will make sure in the references that all the information is there if you're looking for more information on this. The last thing which I wanted to mention, part of this generic like Studio X, Studio V update is check out the release notes, check out docs.poly.com, and there's a lot of information out there. Check all the different versions which comes along with 4.6. In the release notes there's also a lot mentioned about what the products are supported and are workable, what have been tested, etc. But again, I will make sure that in the description I will make sure that all the documents, the reference guide and everything is available there, so you're able to find it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. At least I enjoyed it to present it to you. I think a lot of great new features and functions, especially around the A2 table mics. There's a lot of good things happening. I'm already looking forward, of course, to all the new versions coming up, and of course I will consolidate them all as good as possible, so you have a good idea what's going on with Studio X, with Studio V, or any other new interesting products. Again, I'm gonna make sure that I put all the information that we've talked about in the description below. I'll make sure I'm gonna create chapters so you can quickly jump to the different pieces if you're looking for some specific information. Hopefully you enjoyed it. At least I enjoyed it again, and yeah, I'm already looking forward to see you back in the next video.